at 11 a.m. with Human Services Family Caseworker. Listen in for insights and detailed information on core topics such as the disciplining of the child, the integral involvement of men, and the empowerment of women in the family, parenting and associated laws, child and drug abuse, domestic violence, and teenage pregnancy. Call in to air your views and make your contributions. 45885 or 459 7888. Family Matters on 88.5 Sufre FM.
Good morning, listeners. Thank you for joining us this morning. I know it's been a very long time, and my apologies. Of course, I've been out there doing my best. So I promise to try to be here more often every Wednesdays from now on. So this morning, we have a special guest with us. I will allow him to introduce himself to you. And before we go into our topic this morning, after he introduces himself, I would love to talk a little about what is happening now in terms of love in the air and also independence. So I will allow my guest, my special guest, to introduce himself. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, morning. Pleased to be here. Bonjour tout le monde. My name is Nathan Deterville. I am the Social Transformation Officer in the Department of the Community Services Unit with Ministry Department of Equity. So it's just about a few weeks since I've been assigned to the ministry, since I've been assigned to the role. So I'm new in the community. I'd like to thank the community members for being so welcoming. I've been going around in my community walks, community entry process. I haven't met everybody because, of course, it's a vast community, but hopefully as time goes along, we can meet. In terms of my personal details, I'm originally from Ancillary. So I'm from a West Coast community, big up the West Coast, And so it was actually a pleasure to be able to be part of a community, to be assigned to community. Area has actually had a social transformation officer, so it's understandable, so that's what we're here to do today, to clarify what my role is, what the role of our department is, our ministry in the whole, and what we intend to do while we're on the ground in Sufre. So I think it would be to start getting an understanding of our department on the whole. I mean, it's good to understand the mandate and the mission of the ministry, right? So the Ministry of Equity, Social Justice and Empowerment, the mission, I'll read it verbatim, is to promote, support, and facilitate the participation, development, and organization of our people in utilizing the resources to effect self-directed change towards our economic, social, cultural, political, and spiritual advancement of themselves, the communities, and the nation. So basically what that says is that the ministry is here to help people empower themselves economically, socially, culturally, and politically, and spiritually. The core of that, at the core of that, is helping people to help themselves. And in achieving that mission, the ministry have a few objectives, which is reducing the current levels of poverty and social vulnerability. Looking at groups at risk and helping mediate that in certain ways. Improving the quality of the service delivery to men, women, boys, and girls. Promoting volunteerism, people volunteering to help in the development of the community, which is important. Collaborative work, considering the vastness of the region, the community. That's important. Collaboration is key in our work in getting the work done. and promoting self-reliance, like we said, empowering people to empower themselves, and civic responsibilities in communities. Another objective is strengthening the programs which aid in behavior changes, necessarily be necessary behavior changes in the community, building resilience, through all sort of crises and everything. Resilience is important because it really dictates how we come out on the other side. It's not in life, we'll go through things and there will definitely be crises and everything. We're not promised smooth sailing all the way through, but part of coming out alive, like they say, and coming out mentally and physically sound is knowing, being able to build a sense of resilience and being able to forge through these and roll with the punches, like they say in life. When the time get hard, you have to get harder, that kind of thing. So basically, these are the objectives that I said the ministry that the ministry looks forward to in terms of achieving the mission, right? Now, this is like the objectives of the Ministry of Equity, Social Justice, and Empowerment on the whole. The mandate of our unit, the Community Services Unit, basically along the same lines of fostering development and helping resolve social, economic, environmental issues that affect the community. So we look to build united communities, self-reliant communities, like I mentioned earlier, safe communities, healthy communities, proper access to healthcare and so on, because without a healthy human resource or healthy community, there can't be voluntarism. There can't be, people can't contribute to the GDP and contribute to the economy. So it's essential that your community is healthy and inclusive communities, that we're not leaving anybody out, no matter where they come from, the color of their skin, what their religion is, that everybody is included in the development. So this is like the mandate of our department, the Community Services Unit. So in terms of, we mentioned community development a lot, and it's important to understand what exactly is community development, right?
So before you continue, I want to do a little something. I'm just putting you on the spot right now. So if you were to come into my community, and of course, we try to reach all our listeners. Right. So definitely I'm going to start speaking Creole. So you come into my community and I'm a community member and I'm going to ask you. So Missy, ki monoye, e ki sa ou vini fe a community mwen? Ki mane ou ka yende mwen? Di mwen.
You're putting me on this spot, really.
Ki monoye.
All right, let me speak sure. Okay, now I say Nathan Ditterville. Now represent the Ministry of Equity, Social Justice and Empowerment. I say Social Transformation Officer.
So as who do you say social transformation officer ou hadi mwen sa
ouais, qui ça
so mwen just vle sav lò vini yo committee mwen ki manye ou ka yende mwen as a moun ki manye ou ka yende mwen pa committee ya mais ki manye ou ka yende mwen est-ce ou ka vini de mwen et bien est-ce ou ka vini de committee ya mais ki manye mwen vle sav ki sa ou ka yende mwen ki manye ou ka yende mwen.
Well, mwen pou sav ki problem ou ki sa ka affecte ou ek ba eko ek après ça, nous a discuté, ça nous a fait, si c'est pour aider mon pauvre.
Oui,
right.
Les pauvres.
Si c'est aider pour aider les pauvres, si c'est pour aider caillou, si caillou n'a un problème, pour aider ces issues, si vous allez à l'école et comme vous pas moyen pour aller à l'école. Nous idea just
oui, so okay, moi content sana sa ukadia because isam aussi mona comment changer la tenir timisi na TV en chai. So la non timisi you ka créer Mr. Kendall Elver.
Okay.
Moi ça vi ka faire un chai bagay by community Belleville. So ou ça mi c'est comme ça.
Ouais, Mr.
So oui, so l'on vient en comité ya. Même si vous ne pas qu'à bailler bagay, mais vous faire bagay fait, right?
Assister mon pour assister quoi yo.
Oui, comment ça l'année en comité, l'année anti groupe en comité ya. Yo ka créer quoi yo sports group là.
Right.
So lani sayo kuye development committees, different
Right,
committee.
the four committee,
So ukai
club
vinyo
pour
committee
jeunesse,
ya
comité pour jeunesse,
right.
pour Guamoun,
Okay.
pour Timay.
So
Right.
c'est by qu'on kai
C'est by qu'on
fait.
nous fait. Et
Okay.
ces comités ça pour
Oui.
développement, pour
Okay.
développer community. Yeah.
So là ou vin develop committee ya. Kon ou là ou vin yo committee mwen et puis si bon what if si la pani c'est kalte si by ça un committee mwen now.
Well, si la pensée by ça, nous ça check moun pour venir ensemble pour adresser ces bails la communauté comme communauté a besoin. So si là un problème avec ces jeunesse là, nous ça parler avec ces moun là, nous ça des meetings avec bail and discuss nous ça discuss problème là. Mener moun ensemble pour faire un comité. Ouais, faire comité ça nous ça aider à développer pour développer comité.
Right.
Right.
But dis-moi yon bagay. Kon si ou fait kon ou développer c'est comité development committee, c'est comme committee ça là. Qui ça really ça y? Qui ça ou kay fait? Qui ça really ça y?
Well, as me te dit avant, nous ka assess communauté pour ouais qui sa communauté a besoin, right? So dépendant de ça, nous ça dit OK, communauté a besoin un place pour ces jeunesses là ensemble avec sports. Et bien besoin là un problème crime, so nous ça adresser ça as well. So ça nous ka faire c'est développer project et programme pour adresser ces problèmes ça. Ensemble avec ces comité, c'est developmental committee. Nous avons ensemble meetings avec Baïko pour adresser ces problèmes là, comme on dit.
Okay, all right. Moi content de ça. Because moi savent tout délai. Now c'est mon capacité bonne nouvelle pour hein. Il y a pas bâti un party by, so pas faire ça tout.
So c'est part of ces programmes là comme on dit pour aider ces jeunesses là pour ces mamas là, c'est les pauvres là avec Baïko.
Moi content de ça. And because of ça, moi welcome au pli. Because ou ka vini fait pli bagay à ce committee ya. Oui. So all right. So I just wanted to reach out to the listeners out there, Mr. Disaville, that you know most times we come on board and we speak a lot of English
of
and
course,
we have to
true.
reach our audience.
It's
so
true.
a little Creole is always good.
Now you put me on the spot for two reasons, right? And of course I appreciate that. I wasn't expecting that those questions being thrown at me like that, and that's exactly how it goes into the community. Now, putting it in, like you say, a lot of times you think of those answers and you think of the approach from an English perspective, but you never even consider the themes and the stuff that we address in terms of communicating it in Creole or what way that people understand. And that's probably one of the issues, and that's one of the reasons a lot of people don't understand our roles in the communities.
Yes, because it's all English and you have to break it down, because even when you would come and you would say you know, the development committee in a grown-up's head, our elderly, they would say me ou pa fanye ba mwen, ou pa kende mwen. So yes, so that is why I asked you how would you help me as a person, how would you impact me, right? So I'm happy with your response that you said even if it may not be you directly, but your household, your child, your grandchild may benefit from that. So
and it makes stuff more manageable in terms of, you know,
very much so,
the responsibilities of the household.
Okay. So can you tell us some of the programs that you're hoping to develop or continue in some of the before you continue, I'm not sure if I heard you correctly say what region you represent.
Right, Soufrière and Choiseul. Those are the regions.
Okay, so you're the STO for
social transformation, right?
Choiseul, very good. So you'll tell us some of the programs for both Soufrière and Choiseul that you'll be hoping to develop or continue. Okay,
since this is actually my first month on the ground, so basically a lot of my meetings and stuff has been introductory. Right, is meeting with key people on the ground in the different areas, getting acquainted with the different areas and the needs of different areas. Because my approach and our approach has to be a participatory approach. So I can't just come because I have information on my head. Right, I'll explain. I can't just come with information in my head from an academic perspective and just impose it on a community just because you know that's what academia says, right? We have to involve the people. The people have to be part of voicing the problem saying what's wrong with the community, what they would like to address, and where they would like to see the community reach. And then we help them achieve those goals.
Okay.
Right. So, being that it's my first month on the ground, being that it's really my first month on the ground, I don't want to make any promises or commitments, right? That until I get a full assessment of what the community actually needs, right? But so far, I mean, in terms of we have the after school programs running, which there's a one that happens at Reunion School and one in at Sufer Primary, and there's also one that's at Palmis. We are looking with those after school programs. They're essential because I mean, first of all, it's those are crucial hours when parents are not able to provide, and parents and guardians are not be able to. They're not home, and usually at work. And within those hours, the kids don't have any guidance. So, they're prone to all kinds of influences, and not all influences out there are positive, right? So, there with every program, there are opportunities to to do better in terms of expand the scope of who who benefits from it, and what subject areas are offered, and that kind of thing. Offer more courses. There's a colleague of mine in Castries, one of the after school programs just recently. Some of the kids told her that they were interested in welding. So that's an area she was looking into, expanding the program to accommodate kids who are interested in that. So, you know, things like that. Those programs, like there's always opportunities for review of the programs and building on the efficiency of the programs and those kind of things. But I'm very pleased right now with the support we get from the parents and the facilitators and what have you. And those programs would of course benefit the kids. One of the things that we really want to do, we would really like to promote, is the idea of volunteerism, helping community help themselves, right? And that is one of our that is sort of going to be the nucleus of a lot of our operations down here, is collaborating with the people in the community, the NGOs, the government agencies, the community people who have the business owners and so on, and making them part of the having them be part of the development process. And every sector has issues that affect them. The fishermen have issues that affect them. The schools have issues that affect them. The communities on the whole have different social issues and economic issues that affect them. So when we look at that, in the initial part of my work down here will be assessing all of those things and seeing working with the people to see what approaches we can take to remedy the situations and make it better. So that is
So it would be something like, for example, just giving an example so we could be clear.
right.
It would be something like, for example, you go to a community, you realize there's a field,
Right.
and this field is not being maintained properly. And of course, there are many young persons in the community
Right.
that can benefit from a very good field. So you're saying that you could link with different, maybe government agencies, NGOs, different persons in the community to get help to fix that
The
field,
field.
and also to assist these young people who
In
want to use the
maintaining.
field. So not only maybe would you assist in looking to getting help to fix that field, but also getting the youth on this field, not only the youth, but persons who are interested in using that field. And would you also be assisting them in getting equipment? For example, if there is a football group and this football group, maybe because of the condition of the field, they cannot really use it. Would it be that you'd only be focusing on fixing the field, or would it be a wholesome approach where you would also fix the field and assist this football group in getting gears and organizing themselves and so on?
Right. So, of course, the initial stage would have had to be assessing the needs of the team. So, and this would have to be considered in the scope of the project. That if we're taking up a project, I mean, you have to see it to fruition. And part of that is not just obtaining the equipment or the field. There's also the maintenance of the infrastructure and teaching people because you find unless people have a sense of ownership, they're not heavily invested in it. So that is part of it. So from conception to use, to maintenance and equipment and these kind of things, we can assist in different facets. So for example, when it comes to getting sponsorship and for equipment and stuff that, in terms of rebuilding, renovating, and these kind of things, we can help. For example, if there's a youth and sports organization, we collaborate with them and we tell them, okay, this needs to be, you have these issues with with the field and so on. We can come together, help them develop proposals and projects, and submit projects proposals to sponsors that would be willing to assist, and collaborate with the necessary department, the youth department, youth and sports and these kind of things, and then see how we can make those needs materialize, right? And like I say, it's not only about providing, infrastructure and equipment and these kind of things, but also for people to have a sense of pride and ownership, and teaching them to maintain what they have.
So basically, you're going to teach somebody to fish and not give them
Not give them a fish. Exactly.
Right. I
Exactly.
like that approach, definitely.
Exactly.
So tomorrow you'd be able to help yourself
Right.
and not always lean on somebody for help. All right. Very good. So are you excited? Do you look forward to really coming in and
Definitely, definitely, and I'm even more. What even has catalyzed and made me even more excited. I mean, of course, coming into any community, you have a bit of apprehension. You're not sure how you'll be. You're not sure how you'll be received. But I've always been a positive person. Between 1 year old to 18 years old, I think I probably lived in 4 different countries and gone to about probably 10 different schools. So changing
a
and
wealth of knowledge?
right, so change. I just and that's just to say, not to say I've traveled or anything or push that. That is just to say that I'm open to meeting new people. And I come in with an open mind and so on. I don't come in with any sort of prejudices or judgments or stereotype. What you show me is what I'll absorb and use to define you. And I think that's important with our youth too, because a lot of times our youth are judged because of the areas they come from or the activities that are associated with their generation, and we tend to negate the positive stuff in them. And that's one of the tenets of my work, positive youth development, noticing the positive in the youth, as opposed to labeling them as negative and the stereotypes, and working on those positives, those positive aspects, the potential to build them up, and to making them functioning members of society and contributing members of society.
I really love to hear that. So, in you just going in as the social transformation officer, what would you really need at this stage, your assessment stage, because you're just starting off?
Right.
What would you really need right now in terms of for example, human resource? What would you really need right now?
A huge part of the assessment stage is actually, I mean, just interacting with what is already there in the community, assessing the resources, assessing, going to communities, interacting with the people. So the human resources basically is there. The human resource is the community, is the way to speak. And so the NGOs having meetings with, different aspects, different facets of society, security personnel, you have the police and so on, your emergency and health personnel, and then you can establish what the situation is in those different sectors, and then tie it into to the community needs. So this is like the huge part, the essential part of the operations, and our operations on the ground. Like I say, is collaboration with people who are already there, with people like you, field officers. We depend on, and I'll depend on your experience heavily. I've already been out with Miss Eugene as well, from the department, from
Yes.
right, and looking forward to going out with you as well in in the field.
Definitely.
So the human resources is right around us. It's just for us to network and get things done. As we can. Right.
Yeah, and earlier I heard you mention volunteerism.
Right.
So tell us a little more about that. In terms of one of the things I realized, well, we look at other members of the community, for example, the NGOs, we have the groups already, and we have entrepreneurs and so on. But the core of the community is actually maybe the youth and so on in the community. But you realize now that many persons don't volunteer their time
Right.
as they used to.
Right.
So
It's sorry. Huh?
speak a little of that. How would you get persons to volunteer? How do you think you can?
It's interesting that you mentioned that. I mean, it's a topic that's been it's prevalent, especially since of late. I was speaking to a colleague of mine, and we are lamenting the fact that the world has become so individualistic. It seems like everybody's self-serving and this kind of thing. Before, people had more of a passion for community and and volunteerism in on a whole. Seeing that society has become more individualistic, I think one approach to take with volunteerism, and I was speaking to some of the school principals from District 8, would it be? Right?
Yes, District 8. Yeah.
District 8. And I was saying that one of the approaches that need to be taken, because in the one of the most crucial stages of development for people who have delved in like psychology and development of a human being, is that 12 to 16 age, where a child is trying to build identity and trying to form a sense of identity and identify with a group and build a sense of self. So it is from those stages and even before that, but I'm saying those stages are crucial in terms of psychosocial development, right? When a child is trying to figure out, who am I in society, what is my role going to be, who do I identify with. And in those stages, it's like one of the approaches that I was considering is going through the schools and having the schools. So for example, you have your avid science student, right? You have your and society has environmental and ecological needs. You can tie that affinity for science, your science clubs, and all those kind of things. Students who are in that age range, and encourage them to come together and organize, instill that spirit of volunteerism to change, for community development stuff from them from that time. And even from the time they're 16, moving on after school, they will already have that, and they'll look to organize within the community. And even further on, you can tie it in with developmental goals. So you get them on a science internship.
But one thing I've heard, I'm going to make a statement, please don't
Right.
hold me to it. But one thing that I've observed and even heard among the youth is that persons who need the recognition don't really get it. Because you find sometimes that the persons who are really working in the community, already giving up their time and doing what they're supposed to be, if there is an award to be given, this is not the person that's going to get it. Because most times I would say in our community, in St. Lucia, sometimes it is a thing of more of who knows who, or
Right,
who know
right.
who you know, or who knows who, and it is not a thing of who is doing what. So, for example, sometimes you will correct me if I'm wrong. This I'm saying based on. I'm not saying based on a survey of facts. I'm
Right.
saying based on observation and based on what I've heard the youth complain about. It may or may not be so.
Right.
But sometimes you find you have group members, and the person who's always present, the person who's always ready to offer their time and so on, does not get, for example, you have the National Youth Awards or whatever awards you have within your community or so
Right.
on. So sometimes these persons who are really the workers do not get the recognition, and it's somebody else's. Maybe I'm the teacher's daughter, and I'm
Right.
part of the group. So because I'm the teacher's daughter, and I do one two little things, I'm involved. I'm
Right.
doing one two little things. I will be awarded instead of maybe the farmer's son who's always there, who's always giving himself off. So if that is the problem, I would think that this needs to be changed and give due to whoever needs it. Give the recognition, and that would be one of the ways to encourage the youth to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Now you have to look at it from different lenses. I was speaking to Mr. Saltibus over at the Sufa Development Foundation, and he was commenting on the fact that volunteerism should be wholehearted. It should not Somebody shouldn't have to offer you something for you to want to see something change. All right. But there's the other side of it, where, I mean, like I say, society has become increasingly individualistic, and people look for something out of something. They look to get something. And it is indeed important for us to remember our heroes and our people who contribute. Right. My mother was a community activist and, mentor, youth mentor, and so on. When they used to talk about awards and these kind of things, she said her award is seeing the work that she's doing come to fruition. That's her reward, that's her award, and that's what she goes into it for. But like I say, that is a very optimal and idealistic way of looking at things. So what we have to do in terms of the youth, that's why being equitable is important. A lot of times the people who are making the decisions, like you say, they're part of a close knit group, and and every time it's one set of people who get
Yeah.
recognized, and it's not necessarily, you know, it doesn't correlate with the amount of work that they do, right? So I think that's why it's important to have a voice from every facet. For example, if you have a soufre, for example, just throwing something out there, if you have an awards committee for soufre, it can't be the same close knit of people who are choosing who know what. You have to involve all the community based
Exactly.
organizations,
Yes.
right? So you know that when you check different development committees, different community based organizations, they will not come from the same part of the community. They will not be in favor of the same people. So it sort
True.
of balances who gets recognized, who gets involved, and these kind of things. It makes it more equitable. So that would be my approach. And like I say, one of the reasons for what you mentioned is that a lot of the times it's the same people who are selected to be leaders in different facets of the community.
True.
So to try to make that process a bit more equitable, you know.
And one point you made, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree to disagree. In terms of when you said, if you're volunteering for your hats, and
Mm-hmm.
this is what you should be doing it for,
Mm-hmm.
not anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Where that is true, at the end of the day, you're a human being, and of
Mm-hmm.
course, you would like to be rewarded,
Right. That's why I say it's
right? And
idealistic.
then yes, and if I am doing it, yes, I'm doing it wholeheartedly. I love doing it,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm realizing that you know nothing encourages you to
Right. You're
continue.
demotivated.
Okay,
Right.
and you're seeing that the person who's not really working, this is a person who is being given
Mm-hmm.
all the fame and the reward and so on. You will be
Right.
discouraged,
Right.
no matter how much your heart is in it.
Mm-hmm.
You will be discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying keep the youth encouraged.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, give them the recognition that is needed, and
Right.
like you're saying, not just the small neat group of people.
Right.
Yeah.
And even on that point with the youth, that's especially what I was mentioning in terms of involvement, especially the secondary schools. Providing is not if the volunteerism provides opportunities for self-development, right, and professional development, it makes it more appealing. So, for example, if you say, well, you start a youth development group, or you partner for an international organization, you get an internship within that organization in the area that you're interested in. Obviously, an ambitious youth coming out of high school, or who wants out of secondary school, who wants to progress further academically, who wants to beef up their resume, beef up their college application.
Definitely.
So there are ways of tweaking it so that it makes it more appealing,
Definitely.
and to get the
Like
youth involvement.
like there's, for example, the Commonwealth essay competition, there was that recently.
Right.
And what I really loved about them, what they did, that children participated, although they did not win, or they were not placed, because medals were given for first, second, and third places.
Right.
They did not win, they did not place, but there was a ceremony. I think with Sudera, there was a ceremony, and even those who just got the certificate of participation, they
Right.
were
Right.
recognized.
Right.
And just because of that, I'm
Encouraging.
hearing that the children are saying, okay, since I was recognized, next year I am going to write, I am going
Participate.
to
Yeah,
participate.
definitely,
So the
definitely,
encouragement is there.
definitely.
So
Right.
we need more activities like these.
You have to have positive reinforcements, definitely, to
Definitely.
encourage people to
Yeah.
to think, and I think that's the thing we do as a society, especially being from the Caribbean. I like that's another thing we lament. We always knew when our parents were disappointed in us, but there was hardly any time. I wouldn't say hardly, but we know when we mess up, as opposed to when we're doing good. A lot more in the Caribbean.
Oh
We
yes.
discipline more than
Oh
we
yes.
rewarded
Yes.
a lot of
Yes.
the time.
Yes.
So
Yes. Definitely.
and that's certainly a deterrent. So we have to bear that in mind when we're dealing with the youth, indeed. For sure.
Definitely. So I'm very happy to have you, and of course looking forward to working alongside you, because we have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to be done, especially that we have to bring our youth together, especially our boys.
Right.
Yes, I know that. Of course, the girls are very important, but where you'll find more assistance and support groups for the girls, you don't really find
For
for
the
the.
boys. And I mean, naturally, gender wise, I don't want to sound like gender bias, but it's you find a lot of the time, like you say, statistically, girls will be more willing to express themselves to their peer groups and so on. emotionally, especially if they have any sort of emotional issues and these kind of things. We are groomed down here to have this sort of machoistic kind of, that machismo as men, as Caribbean men. We go like soldiers, boy, we crying for, this kind of thing.
Yes.
you know,
Yes, true.
so we don't we're not as inclined to express when we hurt, when we feel damage, when we feel things. We try to just muscle up, solely up, and handle it ourselves. So you'll be surprised. I mean, that there's so much internal trauma going on, and a lot of internal stuff affecting young boys that young ladies might be more willing to express to their friends and let it out and these kind of things and deal with it in a less toxic way. So you definitely, that's one of the things we have to look at.
Okay.
Touching the boys and making the young men and boys know that they're part of society. It's okay to let people know when you're going through things. That doesn't make you less of a man. As a matter of fact, that makes you more of a man to say, you know what, bro, going through that day, that tough. And you might be surprised to find out another brother going through the same exact thing that you're going through.
Definitely. And by
So
speaking, you
right,
will get little tips
right,
and encouragement and ways to deal
exactly,
with what you're dealing with.
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
So,
so it's all love.
okay, definitely. So going into that, it is. I know many people may not be believing in Valentine's Day,
Mhm.
but it's not the day, but it's the
The concept,
meaning, the
right?
concept,
The theme,
the message it's
right?
sending out there is a message for love.
Definitely, one
Okay,
love. Yeah.
so not only a romantic love for um, couples, but
Mhm.
love for each other, love for your neighbor, right? Love for your nation.
Right.
Because right now, as you were speaking, we were saying persons are more individualistic.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
all about me and
Right.
myself and how will I go forward. It's not now about the group and the
Mhm.
community and how
Community.
we can push each other up. It's all about me.
Right.
So you
Definitely.
find more often than not, persons would fight somebody down instead of encouraging
Encourage them.
somebody forward.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when we think about love, we think about Valentine's Day. Not only do we think about romanticizing it, about a love for a
Right.
partner,
Right.
but also love for your neighbor, love for a nation. Because
Definitely.
you say you love your country, and I heard so many times that persons say, is St. Lucia really a place? And when I read these comments, it breaks my
Yeah,
heart
because
because we make St.
we are
Lucia.
part of what makes a place,
Okay,
right?
we make our country.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's not only when Julian Alfred wins a medal for us, then we'll say, "Oh, I'm a proud St. Lucian."
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, and
Exactly.
when something bad happens, is St.
We
Lucia
say,
really a
yeah,
place?
yeah.
So we all make up St. Lucia. So when we think about love, let us love one another. Look out for our neighbors.
Mhm.
All right. Be proud solutions that when you hear the national anthem, be patriotic.
Mhm.
When you hear our national anthem so many times, the anthem is playing at an event or anything, and persons are walking around and talking and so on.
Mhm.
You hardly find people standing at attention.
The respect,
And
the patriotism. We don't have that
right,
patriotism again. Well, a lot of people don't have that patriotism.
they don't.
You know.
Okay, so all that shows love for your nation. And I was looking on before we started about a little quote on love, and I found this which I really wanted to read. This is why I said before we came on, I wanted to read it. Looks like I just, let me see if, okay, I got it. Okay, so it said a heart filled with pride for our nation, a commitment to its values, and a desire to contribute to its betterment. That's what true love for our country means.
That's
Okay, so I'm
amazing.
looking at it as love for not just our partner, but
But yeah, the
also for our
community.
nation.
Yeah, I mean, even well, that's all. There are certain cultures that have, I think, even the Greek, if I'm corrected, HN, they have different types of love, right? Love for your partner, and of course, love for your neighbor and community. So when people think of love, we're not just talking about the, like you say, the love, the emotion, the romantic love. I mean, we have to have love for our neighbors, because how else you going to exist in a community if you don't have that connection with people, and if you're not willing to say, bro, I step on your foot, but sorry about that. If
Yes.
everything is vengeance and that kind of thing we perceive in, is going to be a cycle of violence and toxicity, and we're going to realize at the end of the day, we didn't destroy anybody but ourselves and our communities.
Definitely.
So
So true.
you know,
Yeah.
so
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 we
one
need
love.
one love. And
Yeah.
of course, next week we will be talking about a little more about our theme for independence and a little more about our independence. I actually wanted to read a prayer now, but I'm going to leave it for next week
Okay.
because it's the 22nd
22nd, right?
of February.
February.
That is our independence. So I'm
Right.
going to leave it for our show next week.
Right.
So again, Mr. Ditterville, thank you so very much for accepting my offer to be here. And I definitely look forward to working with you. And I know many persons are looking forward to working with
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Any last word, any message you'd like to tell our viewers, listeners before we end?
Yes, definitely. Thank you for having me. And I was really looking forward to coming here today. And I'm happy that I was able to make it. There were circumstances that almost didn't permit me to make it, but I'm here. Thank God
God
for
is
that.
good.
God is
Indeed.
good all the time.
Yes.
So like Miss Borjamet said, I'm looking forward to being in the community. Feel free to connect with me wherever you see me. I'm not. Don't be a stranger. And like we said, in the spirit of Valentine and the spirit of country, one love. Blessings.
One love and enjoy it out there responsibly,
Definitely.
especially you.
I'm a homeboy.
Hey, oh boy.
You should have taken me out.
Yes.
Right.
That's what you know what happened to me.